Hello dear learners, welcome to this SWAYAM NPTEL online course on inclusive education. I am Dr. Umakant Prasad, an assistant professor from Department of Education, Vishwabharati Shantiniketan. This is week 9 and today we are going to discuss lecture number 45, that is National Commissions for Minorities and the Ministry of Minority Affairs. During this lecture, we will discuss the National Commission for Minorities and the related concept, for example, early provisions and evolution of the Commission, vision of the Commission, mission and key functions of the Commission and the composition of the National Commission for Minorities. As well as we will discuss the Ministry of Minority Affairs, and at the last we will discuss the National Commission for Minority Educational Institutions. National Commission for Minorities. The National Commission for Minorities was set up by the Government of India in 1992 under the National Commission for Minorities Act. It is a statutory body that works for the protection and welfare of minority communities in the country. The Commission ensures that the rights of minorities are safeguarded as provided by the Constitution and the laws of India. The government has notified 6 religious communities as minorities at the national level, such as Muslims, Christians, Sikhs, Buddhists, Parsis and Jains. The Commission looks into their issues, monitors policies meant for their development and makes recommendations to the government. It also investigates complaints from minorities if they feel deprived of their rights and opportunities. The Commission's main functions include evaluating the progress of development for minorities and monitoring the working of the safeguards provided in the Constitution of India. It also makes recommendations for the effective implementation of welfare schemes and addresses specific complaints regarding the deprivation of rights and safeguards of minorities. The National Commission for Minorities plays a crucial role in promoting communal harmony and maintaining a balance between the majority and minority communities in the country. Let us discuss the early provisions and evolution of the Commission. The protection and promotion of minority rights in India is rooted in the Constitution of India. Several provisions were made at the time of framing the Constitution to safeguard the interests of religious and linguistic minorities. Article 29 and Article 30 guaranteed minorities the right to conserve their distinct culture, language and script, and the right to establish and administer educational institutions of their choice. In addition, the directive principles of the state policy emphasized the duty of the state to promote educational and economic interests of weaker sections, which indirectly benefited minority groups as well. To further strengthen these safeguards, the Ministry of Welfare, later renamed as the Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment, initially handled matters related to minorities. However, there was no specialized body in the early decades after independence exclusively focusing on minority communities, which created a need for an independent commission. Let us discuss the resolution of 1978. The first step to safeguard the rights of minorities in India was taken on January 12 in 1978. On this date, the Ministry of Home Affairs passed a resolution to set up the Minority Commission. It was created as a non-statutory body, meaning it did not have legal powers, but works as an advisory institution. The main purpose of this commission was to look into the problems faced by minority communities in India. It aimed to reduce their sense of neglect, inequality and discrimination. The Commission also had the responsibility to ensure that the constitutional safeguards provided to minorities were respected and implemented. This resolution marked the beginning of organized effort by the government to focus on the welfare and protection of minorities in India. Ministry of Welfare 1984. In 1984, the Minorities Commission was shifted from the Ministry of Home Affairs to the newly formed Ministry of Welfare. This change was made to give more focused attention to the issues of minority communities. The Ministry of Welfare was responsible for the development and welfare of disadvantaged groups, including scheduled castes, scheduled tribes and other backward sections. By moving the commission here, the government aimed to strengthen its role in protecting minority rights and ensuring better coordination of welfare measures. Exclusion of linguistic minorities in 1988. In 1988, the Ministry of Welfare excluded linguistic minorities from the jurisdiction of the Minorities Commission, limiting its scope to only religious minorities. The decision was a significant shift because previously the Commission had a broader mandate that included both religious and linguistic minorities. This exclusion was the part of a larger administrative change, as the Commission had been moved from the Ministry of Home Affairs to the newly created Ministry of Welfare in 1984. This move effectively created a separate mechanism for addressing the concerns of linguistic minorities. The Indian Constitution in Article 350B already provided for a special officer for linguistic minorities to investigate matters related to the safeguards for these groups. Consequently, the government likely felt that the interests of linguistic minorities were being handled by a dedicated constitutional office, allowing the Commission to focus solely on the issues faced by religious minorities. Following this, the Minorities Commission became a statutory body with the enactment of the National Commission for Minorities Act 1992. This act formally recognized the Commission's role in protecting the interests of specific religious communities which were notified by the central government. Evolution into a statutory body. The National Commission for Minorities evolved into a statutory body with the enactment of the National Commission for Minorities Act 1992. Before this act, the Commission was a non-statutory body lacking formal legal authority. The 1992 Act granted it legal backing and a more structured framework to protect and safeguard the interests of India's minority communities. This legislative move was a significant moment as it empowered the National Commission for Minorities to effectively address grievances and promote the well-being of minorities in India. The first statutory commission was formally established on 17th May in 1993. The National Commission for Minorities mandate includes evaluating the progress of minorities development under central and state governments, monitoring the working of safeguards provided in the Constitution and making recommendations for their effective implementation. This transformation from a non-statutory to a statutory body provided the National Commission for Minorities with the necessary legal teeth to function more effectively as a guardian of minority rights. Let us discuss the National Commission for Minorities, that is a statutory body, in details. The National Commission for Minorities is a statutory body and it is not a constitutional body. It means that it was created by an act of parliament. Specifically, the National Commission for Minorities Act 1992. It replaced the previous Minorities Commission, which was a non-statutory body established in 1978. The National Commission for Minorities is a statutory body since it was set up by an Act of Parliament in 1992, and its powers and functions are limited to what the laws prescribes. Although Article 29 and 30 safeguard the cultural and educational rights of minorities, no constitutional provision mandates a permanent commission for minorities. Therefore, the National Commission for Minorities was established through a statute, not through a constitutional amendment. There have been debates and demands to grant constitutional status to the National Commission for Minorities for greater autonomy and effectiveness, but as of now it remains a statutory body. Let us discuss key provisions of the 1992 Act and subsequent changes. Statutory status. The Act established the National Commission for Minorities as a statutory body, giving it the powers of a civil court to summon witnesses, require the production of documents and examine persons on oath. Definition of minority. The Act defined minority as a community notified as such by the central government. Notification of communities. Initially, 5 religious communities were notified as minorities in Gazette notification on October 23rd in 1993, such as Muslims, Christians, Sikhs, Buddhists and Zoroastrians, that is Parsis. Inclusion of Jains. The list was expanded on January 27 in 2014, when Jains were also notified as a minority community. Composition of the Commission. The National Commission for Minorities consists of a chairperson, a vice chairperson and 5 members, all of whom are to be nominated by the central government from among persons of eminence, ability and integrity. At least 5 members, including the chairperson, must be from the notified minority communities. Each member serves as 3 years term. Now, let us discuss the vision of the National Commission for Minorities. The vision of the National Commission for Minorities is rooted in the principles of equality, justice and inclusivity as guaranteed by the Indian Constitution. It seeks to ensure that the rights of minorities are protected and that they enjoy equal opportunities in every sphere of life. In simple terms, the vision of National Commission for Minorities can be stated as to safeguard the constitutional and legal rights of minorities in India, to promote equality, justice and security for minority communities, to foster conditions that enable the full participation of minorities in the socio-economic and cultural life of the nation, to build an environment of trust, inclusiveness and communal harmony among different communities. Now, let us discuss the mission and key functions of the Commission. The core objectives and functions that defines the National Commission for Minorities vision are protecting constitutional and legal safeguards. The National Commission for Minorities is mandated to monitor the effective implementation of the safeguards provided for minorities in the Constitution of India and in laws enacted by Parliament and state legislatures. This includes rights related to language, culture and religious freedom as enshrined in the article like Article 29 and Article 30 of Indian Constitution. Promoting development and inclusion. A key part of the vision is to ensure that the overall progress of minority communities. The National Commission for Minorities evaluates the development of minorities at both the central and state level and makes recommendations to the government for effective implementation of welfare schemes and measures. This includes focusing on their socio-economic and educational development. Addressing grievances. The Commission acts as a forum for redressal of grievances. It looks into specific complaints regarding the deprivation of rights and safeguards of minorities and takes up these matters with appropriate authorities to ensure justice. Research and analysis. The National Commission for Minorities undertakes studies, research and analysis on problems arising from discrimination against minorities and recommends measures for their removal. This helps in understanding the issues faced by these communities and formulating targeted policies. Advisory role. The Commission provides advice and makes periodical or special report to the central government or any matter pertaining to minorities, including the difficulties whatever they confront. Submit reports. Submit periodic and special report to the central government on the matters related to minorities, particularly the difficulties whatever they are facing. Now, let us discuss the composition of the National Commission for Minorities. This is explicitly stated in the section 3(2) of the National Commission for Minorities Act 1992, which establishes the commission and its composition. The Act specifies that these individuals must be a person of eminence, ability and integrity, and it also mandates that 5 of the members, including the chairperson, must be from the notified minority communities. As for the Act, the Commission's composition is as follows: a chairperson, a vice chairperson and 5 members. These 7 individuals are nominated by the central government from among persons of eminence, ability and integrity. A key provision is that 5 members, including the chairperson, must be from the minority communities. The tenure for chairperson and every member is 3 years from the date of they assume the office. Now, let us discuss the powers of the National Commission for Minorities. While performing its functions, the National Commission for Minorities is vested with the powers of a civil court trying a suit. This includes the power to summoning witnesses, summoning and enforcing the attendance of any person from any part of India and examining them on oath, requiring documents. Requiring the discovery and production of any document, receiving evidence on affidavits, requisitioning records, requisitioning any public record or a copy thereof from any court or office, issuing commissions for the examination of witnesses and documents. Other prescribed matters, addressing any other matter that may be prescribed by the Commission. Now, let us discuss the Ministry of Minority Affairs. The Ministry of Minority Affairs was established on 29th January in 2006 by separating it from the Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment. The decision was taken to provide a dedicated and focused approach to matters concerning India's notified minority communities. These communities, as per government notification, include Muslim, Christian, Sikh, Buddhist, Parsis and Jains. This move was significant because earlier minority related issues were handled under broader social justice policies, often overshadowing the specific challenges faced by these groups. By creating a separate ministry, the government aimed to address their needs more comprehensively. Now, let us discuss objectives and function of the ministry. The Ministry of Minority Affairs is the apex body for the central government's regulatory and developmental program for India's notified minority communities, which are Muslim, Sikh, Christian, Buddhist, Zoroastrians, that is Parsis and Jains. The key objectives and functions of the ministry include policy formulation and coordination, facilitating the formulation of overall policy and planning for the development of minority communities. Second one is socio-economic empowerment, implementing programs to improve the socio-economic conditions of minorities through education, employment and economic activities. Protection of rights, working in coordination with other government ministries and state governments to ensure the safety and security of minority communities and protect their constitutional rights. Work administration, administering the Work Act and overseeing the Central Waqf Council, which manages state work boards. Linguistic minorities, dealing with issues related to linguistic minorities and the Office of the Commissioner for Linguistic Minorities. Preservation of heritage, curating and preserving the rich heritage and culture of minority communities. Key organization under the ministry. The ministry works in coordination with several organizations to achieve its objectives. For example, National Commission for Minorities, a statutory body that protects the right of minority communities. Central Waqf Council, a statutory body responsible for the proper administration of Waqf properties in country. Maulana Azad Education Foundation, that is an autonomous body that promotes educational rights among educationally backward minorities. And next one is the National Minority Development and Finance Corporation, that is a government company that provides concessional loans and financial assistance to members of minority communities for self-employment and income generation. Now, let us discuss in brief major schemes and programs. The ministry implements a variety of schemes and programs to provide educational, economic and social support to minority communities. Some of the notable schemes include Pradhan Mantri Jan Vikas Karyakram, a centrally sponsored area development program aimed at bridging socio-economic gaps and providing basic amenities in identified minority concentration areas. Next one is Pradhan Mantri Virasat Ka Samvardhan. This is flagship scheme that integrates 5 former schemes Sikho aur Kamao, Nai Manzil, Utsaad, Nai Roshni and Hamari Dharohar to provide skill development, education support and leadership training with a focus on traditional art and crafts. Scholarship schemes. The ministry offers various scholarship programs to support the education of minority students, including pre-matric scholarship scheme for a student from class 1 to 10, post-matric scholarship scheme for a student from class 11 to PhD, merit cum means based scholarship scheme for students pursuing technical and professional courses at undergraduate and postgraduate levels. Nia Savera, that is free coaching and allied scheme, provides free coaching to minority students for entrance examinations for professional courses and various competitive examinations. GeoParsi, a scheme to contain a population decline of Parsi community in India. Importance. The Ministry of Minority Affairs plays a crucial role in inclusive growth, ensuring that the 6 recognized minority communities have access to equal opportunities in education, employment and economic development. It functions as a bridge between the government and minority groups, addressing their grievances and promoting integration into the national mainstream. Now, let us discuss the National Commissions for Minority Educational Institutions. There is a separate but related body known as National Commission for Minority Educational Institutions. This body is a distinct entity and should not be confused with a bifurcation of the National Commission for Minorities. The National Commission for Minority Educational Institutions is a statutory body established by the National Commission for Minorities Educational Institution Act 2004. Its main purpose is to protect and promote the educational rights of minorities in India under Article 30 of the Constitution, which grants minorities the right to establish and administer educational institutions of their choice. Now, let us discuss the role and function of the Commission. The National Commission for Minority Educational Institutions act as a quasi-judicial body with the powers of a civil court. Its primary functions can be categorized into three main roles. Adjudicatory function: the Commission has the power to decide all questions related to the minority status of an educational institution. It can also hear appeals from educational institutions that have been denied a minority status certificate or a no objection certificate by state authorities. Advisory function: the National Commission for Minority Educational Institutions advises the central and state governments on issues and questions concerning the education of minorities. Recommendatory function: the Commission can make recommendations to the central and state governments on the matters that may affect the educational rights of minorities. Now, let us discuss the power of the Commission. The National Commission for Minority Educational Institutions is vested with significant powers to fulfill its mandate. This includes granting minority status. It has a authority to grant a minority status certificate to educational institutions. Investigating complaints: the Commission can investigate complaints regarding the deprivation or violation of educational rights of the minorities. Cancellation of status: it has the power to cancel the minority status of the institution if the institution has no longer met the criteria laid down in the Act. Appellate authority: it serves as an appellate body for disputes concerning minority status or no objection certificate. Judicial powers: as a quasi-judicial body, the National Commission for Minority Educational Institutions can summon individuals, require the discovery and production of documents and examine witnesses under oath. The National Commission for Minority Educational Institutions is a statutory body established under the National Commission for Minority Educational Institutions Act 2004 to protect the educational rights of minorities in India. The Commission has a specific composition and qualifications for its members. Now, what is the significance of the Commission? The National Commission for Minority Educational Institutions holds great significance as it safeguards the educational rights of minorities in India under Article 30 of the Constitution. Established in 2004, the National Commission for Minority Educational Institutions act as a quasi-judicial body to protect and promote the rights of minority communities to establish and administer their own educational institution of their choice. It plays a vital role in granting minority status certificate, resolving disputes related to minority educational rights and ensuring fair treatment by the state authorities. By empowering minority communities to preserve their culture and identity through education, the National Commission for Minority Educational Institutions strengthens inclusivity, promotes social justice and contributes to India's democratic framework of equality and diversity. In conclusion, we can say the National Commission for Minorities and the National Commission for Minority Educational Institutions together represent India's commitment to safeguarding the rights and interests of minority communities. While the National Commission for Minorities works broadly to protect the constitutional and legal safeguards of minorities and addresses their socio-economic challenges, the National Commission for Minority Educational Institutions focuses specifically on the protection of educational rights under Article 30 of the Constitution. Both bodies function as statutory institutions with quasi-judicial powers, enabling them to investigate grievances, recommend policies and ensure that minority communities have equal opportunities for growth and development. These commissions play a dual role of watchdog and facilitator, ensuring that constitutional guarantees are not only protected, but also effectively translated into action through welfare schemes, educational opportunities and policy reforms. Their significance lies in fostering inclusion, social justice and communal harmony in a diverse society like India. By empowering minorities in the field of education, economy and cultural preservation, they help strengthen national integration and uphold the democratic ideals of equality and pluralism in our country. In essence, the National Commission for Minorities and the National Commission for Minority Educational Institutions stand as vital institutions to ensure that the voices of minorities are heard and their rights respected in India's democratic framework. There are some references here. Thank you.